Sean Hook's Newsmaker Saturday starts now.
Thanks for joining us on Newsmaker Saturday. We are facing perhaps an unprecedented migrant surge at the border over the next few months, with the Biden administration discontinuing Title 42, which kept asylum seekers in Mexico to await their hearings here in the U.S., using COVID as a pretext. But that's going away, and there's a feeling that we're going to get a massive surge. On another note, there is a group of Native Americans that you may not have heard about patrolling the border along a 76-mile stretch of the Tohono O'odham Nation. They are called the Shadow Wolves. The chairman of the Tohono O'odham Nation, Ned Norris Jr., joins us now on Newsmaker Saturday. Mr. Chairman, thank you. This is a group I think a lot of folks didn't know about, and now Congress has gotten involved, saying we're going to even designate them further to try to help recruitment.
You know, the Shadow Wolves have been a key part of the high intensity drug trafficking area, or which is known as HIDTA, which is the task force led by the Tohono O'odham Nation's police department, which is the only tribally led HIDTA in the country. They specialize, the Shadow Wolves specializes in the interdiction of human and drug immigration through the rugged desert terrain on the Tohono O'odham Nation reservation.
And this has been going on since 1974. Again, I think kind of quietly. A lot of us may not have known about this.
Well, let me just say this. You know, the between 2010 and 2020, interdiction and investigative efforts, the Shadow Wolves have led and participated in, resulted in 437 drug and immigration arrests, the seizures of over 117,264 pounds of drugs, 45 weapons, 251 vehicles, and about 847,928 in U.S. currency.
And your guys do it kind of the old-fashioned way. A lot of it is, you know, trying to track down sign. Sign in the Border Patrol world is tracks on the ground, tire tracks, footprints, to try to make interdictions. And you guys are really good at this.
You know, they have been utilizing what we refer to as traditional forms of tracking.
Yes.
Where literally they're on the ground, their boots on the ground, and they are tracking footprints. They're tracking signs of where trafficking may be occurring on the Tohono O'odham Nation. And it is a very, you know, they utilize much cultural, traditional ways of enforcing their tracking ability.
Yeah, and this week the U.S. Senate on April 5th passed trying to improve recruitment and expand operation for the Shadow Wolves. As you mentioned, the country's only Native American tracking unit. Senators Kyrsten Sinema, Mark Kelly, and Congressman Ruben Gallego were key in trying to get that passed. So it's going to give you a little bit more clout, I guess, in this effort that's been going on for almost 50 years.
Well, yeah, we look at it this way. The Shadow Wolves Enhancement Act modernizes the Shadow Wolves program by authorizing reclassification and creating pay equity for its officers. Before enactment of this legislation, the Shadow Wolves officers did not have access to appropriate job series classifications, which limited their pay and upward mobility. The Shadow Wolves Enhancement Act directs the Secretary of Homeland Security to develop a strategy to retain and recruit Shadow Wolves officers, as well as expand comparable units to appropriate areas near the international border.
Can you tell me, Mr. Chairman, what's been going on in the Tohono O'odham lands, that 76-mile stretch of border? You don't have barrier there. I know there's been resistance by the tribe to building walls there and doing permanent structures. So you're left to patrol it pretty much, largely. It's sovereign land. What kinds of problems have you had there? What have you seen happen over the course of time from smugglers, human, drugs, whatever?
Well, there is some level of misunderstanding there, in that the leadership, the tribal council, and my leadership, and the vice chairwoman as chair and vice chair of the Tohono Nation, and even our predecessors who've held these positions that we hold today, have always recognized the need to secure the southern border along the Tohono Nation's lands. And we have done everything necessary to accommodate that, short of agreeing to constructing a 30-foot wall along the 76 miles of international border. And so, historically, in recognition of that, we have allowed the Customs and Border Protection to be on the Tohono Nation, do what they do as far as securing the border, short of construction. We have vehicle barriers along the 76 miles. We have an increased army, if you will, of Border Patrol agents on the Tohono Nation that assist in securing the border. We have beacon lights that are strategically located. We have two staging areas that are operated by Customs and Border Protection on the Tohono Nation, that they use as staging areas for processing migrants that they take into custody anytime that they're patrolling the border area.
Are you getting the asylum claims as well that we're seeing on other parts of the border, where people coming over, perhaps for economic reasons, but they will tell you it's an asylum claim? Are you seeing that as well?
To be honest with you, I can't honestly say yes that we have, but we are not directly involved with the migrants themselves. The Border Patrol typically is the first contact in many situations where with these migrants that are maybe coming in through the area along the Tohono Nation's border.
Okay, can you speak to what has happened on your lands because of illegal crossings? What kinds of problems have you encountered?
Well, there historically we have had members of the nation who have been, how would I call it? Basically, some families that might have been taken hostage in their own homes, in their own communities.
Wow.
By migrant activity, who have maybe been carjacked by migrants coming across the international border. Obviously, we're concerned about all of that activity. Then the drug activity that goes on. But it is. We do face those kinds of activities that come about, and yes, we've had resistance from our own nation's members about how much activity the Border Patrol has been allowed on the Tohono Nation. But on the other hand, we've had just an equal amount of tribal members that have said they support the Border Patrol's presence on the Tohono Nation's lands, because many times they are the first responders to an emergency situation in many of our remote communities, remote villages within the nation. We've got 2.8 million acres of reservation with about 62 villages throughout that. And so much of our reservation is remote. And so, yes, we have those that don't like it, the presence of the Border Patrol, and then we have those that welcome their presence for varied reasons.
Has it become, Mr. Chairman, has it become more violent in the last 10 years?
More violent? I would say, historically, the Tohono Nation always knew there were migrants before Operation Gatekeeper, before 9/11 secure of the border, before, since we've been in existence and since the international border has been established, we have always experienced migrants coming through the Tohono Nation. And in fact, over the course of time, have offered food, water, and a place to, maybe bed down for the night. But that was when a lot of this violent activity really was occurring. We knew that, these migrants were not going to stay. They were going to continue their journey northward. We knew that their primary purpose was to try and find a better place for and work for, so they can support themselves and their family. But over the course of time, yes, I think that there has been an increase of violent activity because of, for various reasons, maybe the security to the border to the east and to the west of us. But I think that it's something that we have recognized and we have been able to thus far address accordingly.
Well, I sure appreciate your time. Chairman of the Tohono Nation, Ned Norris Jr., with us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity to share.
Thank you. Good to see you. When we come back on Newsmaker Saturday, the Consul General for Ukraine, Dmytro Kushneruk, joins me to talk about his appeal this week to the Arizona legislature for more assistance to Ukraine in its war with Russia. The Consul General from Ukraine joins me next. Coming up. Welcome back on Newsmaker Saturday. Dmytro Kushneruk is the Consul General for Ukraine for the Western United States. On Thursday, he made an impassioned appeal to Arizona lawmakers at the state capitol for cash and medical supplies to help his war-torn country following Russia's invasion. Mr. Kushneruk joins me now, the Consul General for Ukraine. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me what you said to the lawmakers and how were you received?
I felt really good support from Arizona State Legislature and before from the meeting with the governor. And I just told that we appreciate the help that Arizona already provides to Ukraine, but ask for more because there is always more that can be done. And that help can come in different ways in terms of special equipment to help Ukrainian fighters, Ukrainian soldiers, armed forces to fight Russia, and also in forms of humanitarian aid, which includes the medical supplies and also the food. And also, if someone wants to do that by financial help, they can also do that.
Yeah.
So everything really helps, and everything is appreciated.
Mr. Kushneruk, for you to appeal to Arizona's legislature and to the people of Arizona, and I know that you and the other consul generals are doing this for Ukraine around the country, I think it suggests that maybe you're not getting what you want exactly from the federal government, from the Biden administration. Am I reading this wrong?
No, it's not exactly like this, because even we are grateful for U.S., for the federal government, the support which Ukraine gets, and for example the weapons, which I was also talking about today. Weapons that we get, we can only come from the federal government from legal point of view. But me and my colleagues, Consul General, who might address the states, is because each state in the United States is powerful enough to provide the help by itself. And there's so much that people want to do and really can do to support Ukraine. That's why we're addressing the local governments, the local legislature, local people, because it's a huge potential that the people are really willing to do themselves, and that's why we're doing that. And by the way, the sanctions, for example, towards Russia, towards Russian companies, and the ban on doing business with Russia is implemented at the federal level, but is being fulfilled at the state level, locally, and it very much depends on the state how they address, how they make sure that these sanctions really work with the Russian companies and doing business with Russia.
Yeah, so it's a full court press. To use an American basketball term. Let me ask you, you're aware that we just sent 17 pallets of equipment from Arizona that will be transported to Ukraine. This is expected to be delivered in the next 2 weeks. 9,000 pounds of supplies sent to Ukraine, donated by 11 local, county, state, and tribal law enforcement agencies. This is everything from body armor to helmets. I mean, this is gear that will be used in war.
The gear will be used to protect the lives. That's most important, because this is not even like, there's some attack weapons or something. This is just to protect lives. It will, and I believe that if it will help to save life of even one person, that's enough. But this amount of the help of body armor and helmets will save many lives. Because I have personally many friends who volunteer to go to join Ukrainian armed forces or territorial defense units, and especially those who are not in the professional armed forces but in the territorial defense units. They don't have enough body armor, so sometimes I could just get calls from really my personal friends who say, is it possible to get it? And because you're in the United States and the United States is helping, and now when this help will be coming not only to armed forces, professional ones, but also to those people who are really protecting their cities against Russia, they will be able to get those body armor, those helmets, and they will be able to stay alive.
Mr. Kushneruk, how do you believe this conflict ends with Russia?
We hope that this war will end as soon as possible, of course, and our president is really eager to do everything possible to stop it, and he is ready to negotiate with Putin directly, despite the fact that Russians are doing that awful things in Ukraine, because the president values the life of each Ukrainian as the highest priority. And that's why we think that this war should end with some agreement which will guarantee Ukraine its territorial its sovereignty, its independence, and security guarantees. The Russia will need to withdraw its troops. So that's how this war, we believe, should end. And then Russia should actually be responsible for rebuilding Ukrainian infrastructure, building houses, the people lost their homes, and by means of international legal mechanism, Russia should be held accountable for that. And the United States has to take the lead in that. But we don't want to put this pressure on the United States taxpayers' money. We want that the assets of Russia, financial assets that have been frozen in the United States, in Europe, they have to be used to give them to Ukraine in order to rebuild our infrastructure after this war.
I don't see how your people would ever go along with Russia, either through a puppet government or Russia itself controlling your country. After what's happened, the atrocities that have unfolded, I just don't see your population saying, yeah, we're going to just let these guys rule us. I can't see it.
That was absolutely obvious from the very beginning, that maybe that was the idea of Putin, that would he be able somehow to control Ukraine, but it's absolutely not possible. Even if they had any military success, which they would be able to occupy some part of the country, which they don't have. Even in this case, there would be a huge resistance from the people. There is resistance in for example, they managed to temporarily occupy the city of Kherson and some small towns around in the south of the country. And people just without the weapons, with their bare hands, they go to make a rallies anti-Russia, not afraid of the Russian soldiers. But imagine what would be in huge cities like Kharkiv, Dnipro or Kiev, absolutely Putin did not understand what he is doing. And this war was a huge mistake from Putin, because the result he gets already and that he will get is absolutely opposite to what he wanted.
Mr. Kushneruk, I remember in the weeks leading up to this, even as Soviet troops were amassing on your border, and they had been for months, there was still, when we would go, American journalists would interview people in Kyiv or other cities, there was kind of a feeling that, Russia's not going to do this. They're really not, in the end, going to come in. Do you think everybody was kind of caught completely by surprise that Russia did what they did?
Well, people really did not want to believe that Russia is going to attack. But the Ukrainian government was, of course, preparing, because we had this information from United States intelligence, and even in the open, in the media, it was already available. So the government was preparing, but doing it in a quiet way. So, but of course, the way they attacked happened not only from the territory of Russia, with which we have a huge border, unfortunately, but also from the territory of Belarus. That made it harder for us to protect our territory from the very beginning. And that's why in this case, yeah, that was a little bit unexpected. But the fact that Russia will do it was getting more and more obvious, because Russia was trying to tell the world that the reason they're doing is because of the Ukraine wants to join NATO or some other reasons. But the real reason was stated by Putin in his video address 3 days before the war. That he just thinks Ukraine should not exist. And that's the reason why he did it.
And he wants the borders to revert back to 1990, 1991. He'd love to have the old Soviet empire back together. If Putin were agreeable to stopping the war, but the give on Ukraine's part would be giving up the territories where the Soviet Union or the Russians currently are, to the north, to the east, the south, would that be workable to allow Russia to have the areas they have captured?
Well, the president of Ukraine says that Ukraine is not trading our territories, and right now Russia actually did not capture that much to talk about, and Ukraine will be probably able to regain control of the south. And the situation is that at the beginning of this war, Russia was already temporarily occupying Crimea and temporarily occupying parts of Donbass, so parts of Donetsk and Lugansk regions. So at least Russia has to get back, to withdraw its troops to those areas where they were before the war. That at least this.
Yep.
And we understand that in the course of negotiations, Russia is now saying that there would be, they're like insisting that the question of Crimea should not be discussed anymore. So they are already kind of much lowered their demands from which they were at the very beginning, because when they said they're going to capture the whole Ukraine and Ukraine has to surrender. So no one is talking in Russia in the good negotiations about it right now. That's why Ukraine's strong military position now gives us a right to be an absolutely equal participant of that negotiation and make Russia withdraw its troops.
We appreciate your time, Dmytro Kushneruk, the Consul General for Ukraine for the Western United States, based out of San Francisco, who appealed to the Arizona legislature this week for more help. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We are back in a moment on Newsmaker Saturday. Thanks as always for joining us on Newsmaker Saturday. People ask all the time, where can I find the prior interview you did with so-and-so? Here's how you do it. Open up your camera app, grab that QR code on the screen, and it will take you right to our website for prior shows that we did, or the old-fashioned way, fox10phoenix.com/newsmaker. You can get the programs there. We appreciate you tuning in, and we will see you next week on Newsmaker Saturday.